This is Frank Fantini. I'm with Todd Eilers, who is the founder and a managing director of, if that's the right title, of Eilers-Krejcik Gaming, which is a, I guess you could call it a boutique research firm and consultancy, if that's correct.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Todd and we co-publish the Eilers-Fantini Quarterly Slot Survey, which many folks in the industry are familiar with, which many investors are familiar with. It's an absolutely extraordinary piece of research that comes out every 3 months on trends in the gaming technology sector. I think when we started this, one of the things that I had said is I would kind of like to see it be sort of the Smith Travel research for the gaming industry. And I think to a great extent, Todd, that you've accomplished that.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about who Eilers-Krejcik is, what you guys do.
Sure. So Eilers-Krejcik Gaming is, as Frank mentioned, a boutique research and consulting firm. Our number one focus is on gaming equipment and technology, and that's where I think we're unique from most consulting firms and investment banks that kind of follow the broader gaming industry. We simply don't do a lot of work on casino operators or anything like that. It's strictly gaming suppliers and technology. And when we first started out, it was pretty much focused on the land-based sector, so slot machines, table games, et cetera. Since then, it's morphed and expanded a little bit to include interactive gaming, which could include a lot of different areas, but we do a lot of work in the social casino sector, real money internet gaming, now esports and daily fantasy sports. So my partner Adam Krejcik does a fabulous job covering that sector, and I spend most of my work on the traditional kind of land-based sector. And then obviously there's a lot of overlap between the two nowadays, and so it's a nice fit, and I think we both complement each other nicely.
What do you see as the current trends of note in the gaming technology space?
Sure. So I always kid my partner. He gets all the fun, goes to all the fun trade shows, and the land-based side of things is not quite as exciting and not in growth mode, if you will. But I still enjoy following it. Some of the trends that I see right now, unfortunately, is a pretty much flat business from the standpoint of looking at the slot sector, which most everyone kind of focuses on the traditional land-based sector. Demand's essentially kind of flat, and it has been for a couple of years. Casino operators have turned their attention a little bit away from gaming and are making, I think, a little bit more investments in non-gaming amenities. The question is, how long does that continue, and is there a reversion back to gaming, which I don't think anyone would debate the fact that that's one of the core offerings in the gaming industry. But we are seeing a little bit of that right now, which is a bit of a drag and limiting in terms of growth. There are certainly expansion opportunities, though, on the interactive side of things, and I think almost every company that's thinking about growth and how to position themselves certainly should have an interactive strategy, whether you're on the operations side or the supplier side. And then there's also plenty of international growth opportunities as well, both on the land-based and interactive side.
One of the areas that is of growth within the industry are electronic table games. How do you see that playing out?
Sure. I agree with you. I think that's a growth area in the industry going forward. We've done some work on that space. We put out a white paper a while back. Right now it seems like the big opportunity for e-tables is mostly in Asia and in Europe, but it is starting to grow in North America. Right now it only represents about 1% of the casino floor, whereas in Europe and Asia sometimes it can reach 10, 15, 20% of the gaming floor. So there's certainly a lot of potential, if you can come up with the right product offering and get a casino operator partner that is willing to market and promote the offering to their customers in the right way. I think there's a lot of growth opportunity there.
When we talked earlier today with John Connolly, CEO of Interblock, which is purely an electronic table game company, he said that when he talks to casino operators in the United States and says that he thinks ETGs can make up 5 to 10% of the gaming floor, he doesn't find any disagreement.
No, I wouldn't disagree with that at all. I mean, and I would echo that as well. I mean, I think that it certainly offers potential when you look at other markets that are a little bit more mature with those types of games. Also, you know, it frankly is a nice way to possibly target a younger demographic, possibly a more male demographic. So there is a lot of advantages, I think, on the operator side to have you know, a nice e-table offering as part of your broader casino floor.
We've had skill-based gaming was a buzzword last year, and I'm told we'll see a lot more development of those games on the trade show floor this year. And we also see things like virtual gaming coming into more prominence. How do you see skill-based and virtual games, and maybe even virtual reality, developing in the industry?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's certainly a lot of buzz regarding skill-based gaming to start off there. I agree. I would expect to see a lot more product offering in that category at G2E this year. You know, it's interesting because all of the larger suppliers will certainly have a few games that target that you know, type of offering. But there's also some independent companies as well, like Gamblit and Gameco, that have some really unique offerings that I think are probably going to be well outside of the box of the traditional suppliers. And in my experience in following the gaming industry, you know, a lot of times any real kind of revolutionary change a lot of times comes from outside of the traditional powers, and then typically those companies get gobbled up pretty quickly. And so, you know, if something really truly is to kind of revolutionize the floor, my guess is it probably comes from a company outside of the big suppliers. Not to say that the bigger companies couldn't have a nice product offering that you know, is a nice complementary offering to the way the casino floor is set up nowadays. I'm sure there'll be some of that, but I think a really kind of game-changing move, you know, in my opinion, probably comes from a smaller company.
Yeah, that seems to be the nature of the world, regardless of what the industry is. And maybe that's a good transition now into interactive and some of these emerging forms of gambling, such as esports. A year ago, the buzz was daily fantasy sports. This year it seems to be esports. And I know you're stepping into Adam's territory now, and I'm sure he'll forgive you if you...
If I butcher it too much,
Right.
But yeah, I'll do my best.
Tell us a little bit, A, what is esports, and how do you see it playing out?
Sure. I mean, I think without butchering this too much, I mean, I think the basic premise is essentially, you know, wagering or gambling on video games, and you know, I think that this is you know, I was fascinated to learn about the space when my partner published a pretty in-depth report on the market in partnership with Legal Sports, Chris Grove. They did a great job, really fantastic, a lot of information. And I was shocked at, and my experiences following traditional gaming, and I was shocked to learn how many people actually go watch these events. And so I think in the near term, really seems like a tremendous opportunity for the traditional casino gaming industry to at least start to host some of these events and create some partnerships and some marketing opportunities. You know, I don't know if there's ever going to be a tremendous amount of conversion over to traditional gamblers, but simply the sheer volume of people and the interest in that sort of activity very much seems to be a nice complementary offering, especially in kind of your destination resort, you know, type facilities, and especially in Las Vegas. And so I think, you know, if you're not looking at that, you should be on the operator side, and I think it's a fantastic complementary vertical in the gaming industry.
Yeah, the gaming technology companies worry about how are they going to attract the millennials. Esports is millennials.
Exactly. So, I mean, if that's what you're looking for, there's a great area where you can spend some time and focus on that for sure.
Social gaming also has become a phenomenon. it's pretty well established now. Do you see social gaming continuing to grow at anywhere near the rate that it has the past few years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it had such explosive growth for several years that I think it's inevitable that the growth rate will decelerate, although we still are forecasting double-digit growth for the social casino market in 2017. You know, it's essentially just shy of a $3 billion market right now. All the major vendors have some exposure, mostly on the B2C side of things, which when the industry first took off and we started to see some integration with the land-based community, we saw IGT make that purchase of Double Down, and there was a lot of rumblings in the community about, you know, how the casino operators might not like one of their suppliers competing with them as an operator in the online world. I suspect they probably don't like it, but we haven't really seen much of an impact on the core gaming business. At the end of the day, if you're putting out good slot product, you know, operators are going to buy it because their customers are going to demand it. So we haven't seen much of an impact there, but certainly it's still a growth market, still a lot of opportunity out there. I think what you'll see going forward, and what my partner has kind of alluded to in a lot of reports recently, is that there's still opportunity to add on additional verticals into your social casino operator or offering. You know, there's a big trend nowadays is more of the classic style slots, so just no frills, just basic kind of VIP type slot gaming. There's other product offerings like bingo, poker that a lot of companies could offer, as certainly geographic expansion as well. So it's still very much a growth market, and I think should be a primary vehicle for a lot of the land-based suppliers going forward.
The industry is converged and globalized, and technology has driven the convergence. You've got, you know, I always use the example of the British bookmaking companies, where, you know, William Hill was a place down on the corner where you went to place a bet. Now it's this jazzy, international, online, mobile company, and they not only have sports betting, but they've got casino, and they support all these other things. Now you've got social gaming, and you've got esports, and it's almost like the industry is really converging into one industry with all these multiple outlets for entertainment and for wagering.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, from the supplier side, which is our focus, you know, that's a great thing. I mean, at their core, right, they're developing games, and so, you know, clearly you want to have as many distribution outlets as you can possibly find, whether that's in a land-based casino, whether it's with a VLT in a lottery jurisdiction, or whether it's online, you know, in a real money gaming jurisdiction, or whether it's social gaming products. So, you know, I think certainly they see an opportunity right now and are developing games with that in mind to be able to offer in a lot of different mediums. And so that's definitely a good thing right now. And you'll probably hear the word omni-channel about 100 times or 100,000 times this week. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a good thing. And I think that's where a lot of focus will be in terms of distribution going forward.
We've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. Anything else you'd like to touch on?
No, I mean, I think that you know, we do spend a lot of time talking about growth, primarily being on the interactive side, but we do see growth both domestically, opportunities which, you know, partly would require legislative change, but we're big believers in the kind of route op market approach, and Illinois is a perfect example of a market that legalized a gray area video gaming market and regulated it and generated incremental tax revenue. And so I still think that's a relatively untapped market in the United States, and so certainly there's potential there. Internationally, Brazil's a big market that everyone's talking about. You know, our sources indicate that the odds of Brazil passing gaming expansion, you know, this round are pretty high, and so it wouldn't surprise me if you see a lot of news on that over the next couple of months. And that certainly would be a very large opportunity for everyone, including the suppliers. I mean, you're talking about several hundreds of thousands of games, and you know, we've to put that into context, That would be the biggest growth opportunity for the suppliers in terms of terminal or units since the passing of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. So it's a pretty significant event if it does happen, and it looks like the odds of that are improving every day.
Okay. Well, Todd, I want to thank you for coming by. It's been very interesting.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it, as always.